Kirby and the Forgotten Land takes place in a post-apocalyptic setting. And that's weird, right? Any story set in a post-apocalyptic world is essentially set in a massive graveyard. Characters living their lives amongst the ruins, the stories, the bodies of those who are lost. A post-apocalyptic setting is a melancholy one. There is sadness here, loss, thoughts of mortality. It always makes me think of Scipio Africanus. Scipio was the Roman general who defeated Hannibal and besieged then burned Rome's rival city, Carthage. Upon viewing the burning ruins of Carthage, Scipio supposedly said, "It is glorious, but I have a dread foreboding that someday the same doom will be pronounced upon my own country." Scipio looked at the burning ruins of Carthage, and in this, the greatest moment of his life, his crowning achievement, years of warfare concluded with victory, he couldn't help but wonder when Rome would share the same fate. Of course he was right. Hundreds of years later, Rome did burn. The Roman Empire, perhaps the greatest in the world, did eventually collapse. Scipio's foreboding prophecy came true. History is full of civilizations that fell to ruin, and it's not hard to assume that this is the natural fate of all civilizations. Post-apocalyptic settings remind us that, no matter where we live, no matter how golden our present age, someday, inevitably, our city too will be a ruin. When you see a post-apocalyptic setting in a movie, TV show, book, or video game, you might ask yourself, when will this doom be pronounced upon my own country? So why the heck is a freaking Kirby game set in a post-apocalyptic setting? What were these developers thinking? Kirby is the most cutesy, silly, goofy, fun, optimistic character in all of video games. Like, the Mario games don't come anywhere close to how intensely saccharine the Kirby franchise is. These games are full of bright colors and fluffy characters. I play Kirby for an opportunity to turn my brain off and suck up some spherical bad dudes, not to contemplate the end of civilization. Now, instead of just a bizarre development decision made without any thought given to the thematic implications, or any regard for the absurd tonal juxtaposition, let's pretend that the developers of Kirby and the Forgotten Land actually had some kind of meaning or message in mind when they chose this setting. Let's pretend that the developers of Kirby and the Forgotten Land had something they wanted to tell us. And let's see if we can figure out that purely hypothetical imaginary message out. First, let's look at a couple of other post-apocalyptic settings in video games, and examine how those settings affect their stories. This is Soma, a horror game. In Soma, the Earth's entire surface has been scorched by a comet impact. All life on the surface is dead. The only humans to survive are a small community of scientists, living in an underwater research facility at the bottom of the ocean. Their community is not sustainable. Human life cannot continue in its current form indefinitely. An overarching question of the story becomes, what is human enough? What form of human life is acceptable enough to be considered a true continuation of human life? If people upload copies of their personalities into a computer program, is that a true continuation of human life? What if we upload their personalities into robots, into industrial machines? Are they still human then? What if we force humans to undergo horrific invasive surgeries that warp their bodies in terrifying ways, but technically keep them biologically alive, if not necessarily sane and conscious? Is that humanity? Ultimately, Soma is a game that uses its post-apocalyptic setting to ask, what is human life? What are the essential qualities of a human life? This is Nier Automata, an action JRPG. In Automata, human civilization has been destroyed by a war with an alien species. This conflict has lasted centuries, and resulted in the eradication of all human life on the planet Earth. The war still rages on, though. In humanity's ruins, androids built by humans and machines built by the aliens fight a perpetual artificial battle, without victory, without meaning, and without end. In the absence of human life, the story asks questions like, what is life? Not what is human life, but what is sentient life? How much does a machine need to care, to feel, to form relationships before we can really call it alive? The game is full of machines that are successfully approximating human emotions and human relationships, often in silly and childish ways. Are they really feeling those emotions or just simulating them? What's the difference? Does it matter? The ultimate question in this setting is, what is life at all? This is Horizon Zero Dawn, an action-adventure game. Unlike the previous two examples, Horizon's post-apocalyptic setting is absolutely filled to the brim with life. And not just robot life, but human life, human culture. New human civilizations are rising from the ruins of the old. Horizon doesn't ask questions about what is life, but instead offers an optimistic vision of humanity's future. It presents an idealistic scenario in which, against incredible odds, the most terrible of tragedies, by the achievement of the greatest among us, our greatest scientists and engineers, by tremendous sacrifice, humanity hangs on, if only by a thread. We survive to flourish and thrive once again. Horizon is about the tenacity of life, our ability to survive and to adapt. These three very different games with very different stories, each set in post-apocalyptic settings, and each of them uses that setting to say something about life. Interestingly, it seems that most post-apocalyptic stories use their charnel settings, full of loss and death, to actually say something about life, the meaning of life, the importance of life, the tenacity of life. So, remembering these examples, let's get back to Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Is there anything that the developers of Kirby and the Forgotten Land wanted to say about life? Well, let's look at it. In this game, you're bouncing and sucking around the forgotten city streets of a nameless city, where all the residents have vanished, and animal and plant life have reclaimed the urban environment. When analyzing a story, the first thing you should always ask yourself is, what stands out? What do you notice first? What is memorable? What seems important here? I'll tell you what stands out to me in Kirby and the Forgotten World. This game is freaking cute. Look at Kirby. Look at his little outfits. Look, he's dressed up as a spaceman. Now he's dressed up as Link. Now he's got a giant pencil on his head. Oh my gosh, I found it. I found the best one. This Kirby has a seal hat on. I love him. He is so cute. And it's not just outfits, guys. Now he's doing a little dance. Now he's doing another dance. God dang, he is a little cutie patootie. And look at all these fluffy animals running around. Don't you just want to pick them up and rub your face against their fluffy wuffy bellies? And hey, you can gather up all these lost little ducklings and bring them back to their duck mom. Aww. Delightful. You may be noticing something of a drastic tonal mismatch in Kirby and the Forgotten Land. There's the melancholy post-apocalyptic setting, and then there's all this cute bright colored bull crap flying across the screen. What is going on here? I'll tell you what, it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine because the end of the world is cute. When you really think about it, aren't all our concerns about famine and war and pandemics and economic collapse, and the growing inability to afford groceries or rent, and the lack of access to effective health care, and the rampant gun violence, and the natural disasters, and the out-of-control climate change, and the rise of authoritarianism across the world kind of goofy? Aren't we all being a little bit silly? If you're so nervous about societal collapse, maybe you should consider putting on a cute seal hat and shoving some donuts in your face. Because the end of the world is gonna be cute, it's gonna be silly, it's gonna be goofy. If the end of our civilization is unstoppable, if we're all gonna die anyway, why not march into the fire with a stupid smile on your face and a cuddly critter tucked beneath each arm? Now, let's look at this food service minigame. In this minigame, Kirby works at a restaurant, serving a perpetually growing line of angry, impatient, demanding customers, who, just because he's working a minimum wage customer service job, treat Kirby like he's not even freaking human, like he's just some piece of shit they stepped in on purpose. And you know how Kirby responds? By being cute. He's even cute while working in fast food. We're all working crappy, stupid jobs we hate, we're all getting treated like dog shit, but Kirby tells us that's no excuse not to be cute. God dang it. Put a smile on your face and say, this is all pointless. None of this matters. Maybe this burger's gonna get out to that asshole at table 12 on time, and maybe it won't. And maybe he'll complain, and maybe he won't. And either way, he can go fuck himself in his dead-ass butthole, because we're too busy being cute to care what he thinks about anything. Next, let's take a look at the fourth world in Kirby and the Forgotten Land, because I think it holds the philosophical key to understanding this game's thematic mysteries. This part part of the game takes place in a desert. All the greenery and vibrancy and life of the previous levels is vanished. All that remains is a searing sandy desert, full of bones and lost tales. Have the developers of Kirby and the Forgotten Land finally given up, admitted defeat? Are they saying that in the face of death and existential angst, that even cuteness, that last bulwark against depression, that it too will fail us? Well, just look at what Kirby discovers in the scorching sands of this lifeless desert. A freaking 5-star resort hotel. Kick back and relax, dudes. It's the end of the world, who cares? Sip a pina colada and watch the face of the world fade into the dust. To finish off this essay, let's talk a little bit about the ancient Greek philosophy known as hedonism. Hedonism teaches that in this short, mean life full of suffering and pain, the only true intrinsic good is pleasure, pleasurable sensations. To live life fully and happily, one must seek out pleasurable sensations. To deny oneself pleasure is to deny life itself. To deny the only thing that is good and right in this unhappy world. You can't really know what is true or false. The world is too complex, too interconnected, too contradictory, too full of liars, too full of misinformation, too full of people who are totally wrong but equally sure they are right, too confused, and too vast to know anything about anything for absolute certain. There are no objective answers to life's great questions. The only thing you can know for certain is your immediate sensorial experience. And the only sensorial experience worth having is pleasure. Looking at World 4, looking at this resort hidden in the searing desert, it seems to me that the developers of Kirby and the Forgotten Land are true believers in the philosophy of hedonism. In the face of societal collapse, the fall of civilization, total destruction, in the face of death, they say, screw it, let's play Kirby instead. And you know what? They might be right, because this game is really good. I think this might be the best Kirby game that's ever been made. I didn't have particularly high expectations going into it. Kirby games are usually fun and cute, but they're also usually pretty brain dead. You can beat most Kirby games by sitting on the controller and farting on it a couple times. But not only does Kirby and the Forgotten Land contain some genuine challenge, but it is so creative. Like every level I felt like I was doing something new and different. Every level introduced some new idea. The end of the game was wild. You go through like 5 boss battles back to back, each one wilder than the one that came before. Like, look at this freaking terrifying jello monster that's chasing Kirby down this corridor. What the heck is that? And in the finale, you drive this semi-truck up all these falling skyscrapers suspended in space to blast straight into this interdimensional alien's face. This game is crazy. If you haven't played it and you like platformers, definitely give it a shot.